Today is the 20th day of the month of Cheshvan. We are beginning a new chapter, chapter 15, discussing the laws of Minyan and of the different things that need a Minyan, namely Kaddish, the Chaz's repetition, called Chazaras Hashatz, Baruch Hu, etc. We will be doing paragraphs 1 through 6. Paragraph 1. When we get to page 82, we have Yishtabach, that's the last paragraph of the Pesukei de Zimra section of the morning service that we talked about in chapter 14. And then after that, we have something called Baruch Hu and Kaddish. This is on page 84 in the Art Scroll Siddur. So over here, the Kaddish takes a break and goes into the rules of Minyan for a little bit. By way of introduction, there are 5 different types of Kaddishes. Kaddish is known as the memorial prayer that somebody whose relative passes away, they say it for a year. Really, we only do it for a parent. Some people will do it for siblings, but halachically really only has to be done for a parent. But Kaddish is really much more than that. So let's go through the different types of Kaddishes. The first type of Kaddish is called a half Kaddish. And it's called half Kaddish because it only contains half of the full-length Kaddish. This Kaddish is said after different parts of the service. We say it like we just mentioned now after Yishtabach on page 84. It's said before the Shemona Esrei by the afternoon service and the evening service. It's said after Torah readings. It's only said by the Chazan, the leader of the service. The next type of Kaddish is called a Kaddish Shalim, a complete Kaddish. It's sometimes also called Kaddish Tiskabel because there's a paragraph at the end of it which starts out with Tiskabel, which the other Kaddishes don't have. This Kaddish is only said by the Chazan, by the leader of the service also, and it's said following Shemona Esrei, the Amidah. Some prayers is said right after the Amidah, other prayers it's said a little bit later for various reasons. The next type of Kaddish is called Kaddish Derabanan. This is one of the Kaddishes said by somebody who lost a parent in the past 12 months. The reason why it's called Kaddish Derabanan, the rabbi's Kaddish, is because there's a paragraph in this Kaddish asking God to take care of the rabbis and their students. And the reason why they're mentioned is because this Kaddish is said after studying Torah, and in the parts of the service in which we have some Torah involved in it. For example, a section called Karbanus, which is earlier on, which has a lot of some Mishnah in there, sections of the Torah. So this Kaddish is said after those sections, and since the rabbis and their students are the ones that are teaching and learning Torah, we have an extra paragraph about God taking care of them in this Kaddish. Again, this is called Kaddish Derabanan, the rabbi's Kaddish. But it's not said by rabbis, it's said by mourners about rabbis. The fourth type of Kaddish is called Kaddish Yasam, which translates as the mourner's Kaddish. This Kaddish is also said by somebody who lost a parent within the last 12 months, and that's why it's called the mourner's Kaddish. It doesn't have anything unique in it about the rabbis or anything of that sort, so it just gets the standard title of mourner's Kaddish. The fifth Kaddish is not something which comes up on a regular basis. It's a Kaddish which we say at a Siyum celebration. When we finish learning a huge section of Torah, we make a celebration called a Siyum, completing that section of Torah. And so at that time, we say this Kaddish. It's also said by a funeral, after we bury the person that passed away, then the children of that person say this Kaddish, but it doesn't come up during the prayers, only at a Siyum or at a funeral. Now, to say any of these Kaddishes, we need a minyan, we need 10 Jewish men over bar mitzvah to be there. So let's say you say Yishtabach, that last paragraph of the Pesukei de Zimra section. Now you're supposed to say Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu is a one-line prayer where the leader, the Chazan, tells everybody else, we got to bless God, and everyone blesses God, says the line blessing God, and the Chazan repeats it. For that, we need a minute as well. So you finish the Yishtabach paragraph, the end of Pesukei de Zimra. You're supposed to say now Baruch Hu and the half Kaddish, but there's no minyan. What do you do? So you can wait up to half an hour for a minyan to arrive. The Yishtabach paragraph is the end of the Pesukei de Zimra paragraph. It's a blessing which completes the whole section. So really, we're not supposed to wait when we get up to Yishtabach. We're supposed to say it right away because part of that section. However, if we're waiting for a minyan to get there, we can wait up to half an hour for a minyan to get there in order to be able to say Kaddish and Baruch Hu. Really, the best thing is that everyone else should say Yishtabach except for the leader, for the Chazan. The Chazan will hold off on saying Yishtabach until the minyan arrives. If it will take longer than half an hour for the last person or two to get there to complete the minyan, then we don't wait for them. We just say, even the Chazan says that paragraph. You still can wait after you finish the paragraph of Yishtabach, but the Kaddish has to be attached to the paragraph that was just said. you're not saying Ishtabach now when that number 10 person walks in because you already finished saying Ishtabach. So what do? You're supposed to recite a few verses from Psukei Zimra, from random places in the Psukei Zimra section, and then you could say that the half Kaddish going back on those few verses that you just said. Paragraph 2. We said that we need 10 Jewish men for a minyan. What's called a man? Who's called a man? So we know that when a boy becomes 13, he reaches his bar mitzvah. At that point, he is considered an adult, and he can be counted for a minyan. Now, even if he didn't have a bar mitzvah celebration, once he reaches his 13th Jewish birthday, he's now considered an adult regardless of any celebration, regardless of getting an aliyah. He's now considered bar mitzvah, and he can count for the minyan. There's something really interesting about the Jewish calendar. Just like on the secular calendar, we have leap years where February has an extra day. On the Jewish calendar, there's a leap year where there's an extra month, a 13th month. The last month of the year is Adar. So in a leap year, we have 2 Adars. We have Adar 1 and Adar 2. So imagine the following scenario. 2 babies are born in a leap year. The first baby, let's say, is born on the 20th of Adar 1. The second baby is born on the 10th of Adar 2. Now, let's say 13 years later, the year that they turn bar mitzvah, there's only 1 Adar. So both those months get squashed into 1 month. It turns out that the baby that was born the second Adar on the 10th of Adar 2, who was born second, his bar mitzvah gets pushed back to the 10th of Adar of the only Adar that exists right now. There's not even Adar 1, Adar 2, there's just plain Adar. So the baby that was born first on the 20th of Adar 1, his birthday is not till the 20th of Adar this year. It turns out very funny that the boy who was born second, his bar mitzvah ends up being first. But that's how it is halachically. The main thing is that once a boy turns 13, he's now counted as an adult. He could be counted as part of the minyan. Paragraph 3. You may have heard of a concept that we don't count Jews. And that is an accurate concept. We are not supposed to count Jews, at least not out loud. So how do you count if you have 10 for a minyan? You need 10 for a minyan. How do you know if you have 10 or not? So first of all, you can count in your head without a problem. In your mind, look around the room, see do we have 10 people here. You also might see someone like mumbling under their breath a little bit. There's a verse which has 10 words. Hoshia esamecha uvarach es nachasecha urim v'nasim ad olam. That verse has 10 words. So people will, instead of counting numbers, they'll say the verse by each person to see if we got 10 or not. But make sure when you're counting, see if we have 10 for a minyan, not to actually use numbers for the people, at least not out loud. Paragraph 4. So you need 10 people for a minyan. Now, obviously, these 10 people have to be together. If you have one person in one house, another person in another house, we can't join them together to be part of the minyan. So the question then becomes, what's called together? Clearly, 2 separate houses would not be considered one together. You have 5 people in this house, 5 people in that house. That's not a minyan. What about 10 people who are in 2 different rooms? So you have 5 people in one room, 5 people in the next room. Could they join together? Is that considered a minyan? So the answer is that depends if they could see each other. If the 5 people in this room could see the 5 people in the other room through the doorway, then they could be considered they are considered a minyan. However, it's not really so great, and really they all should be within the same room to make this minyan. Now, once you have 10 men in a room, and you do have a minyan here, then there's no problem at all of somebody being in the other room. They could answer Baruch Hu, Amen, Yehi Shmei Rabbah, all the things that you need a minyan for. They could join the minyan once there's a minyan in the room. But forming the minyan from 2 groups in 2 different rooms, that's where you have these problems. Paragraph 5. One, in general, we already learned earlier on that when we're saying Amen, we should be focused. But especially when we're saying Amen in Kaddish. Kaddish is an extremely holy prayer. We should make sure that we're paying attention and we're focusing as we're saying Amen. And as well, there's a line that we say, Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevarach l'olam omei omaya, that may God's great name be blessed for all eternity. That line as well is an extremely powerful line. And we have to make sure that we're focused and we're paying attention as we're saying it. Paragraph 6. For Kaddish, do we stand or do we sit? So the Ashkenazi custom is Kaddish we always stand for no matter what. The Sephardic custom is that if you already were standing beforehand, you remain standing. If we're at a part in the prayer or sitting when Kaddish is recited, then you remain sitting. What should somebody who is Ashkenazic do if they are in a Sephardic minyan? In that case, you should remain seated like the custom of the minyan where you're at. If a Sephardic Jew is by an Ashkenazic minyan, then they should stand by every Kaddish, even though they will sometimes sit. This concludes today's episode. Have a wonderful day and see you tomorrow.